This is David with The Verge, and this is the 2012 version of the Apple TV. Physically, it's absolutely identical to the 2010 version. It's really small, 3.9 inches squared, and just under an inch tall. It's still black, glossy on the sides, and matte on the top. It's really nice looking and should slot pretty easily and unnoticeably into your home theater stack. Its hardware is still super simple and basic. You do pretty much everything using the HDMI port, and there's also a micro USB port, an optical audio port, and an Ethernet port. Even the remote is the same as it used to be. It's also really basic. It has the 5-way directional pad plus menu and play pause buttons, and it's great for navigation. Apple designed everything to be really simple, but for typing it's actually pretty hard because you end up going right, down to just to type a letter. And fortunately there are companion apps for iOS that you can use easily with the Apple TV, and those work much better, mostly because they give you a full keyboard and some gesture support to get around. But the remote is really good looking and for the most part does the job fine. Inside the box there's one big upgrade, the new A5 processor. It's a single core version of the processor that was announced in the iPad and iPhone last year. And it powers the biggest difference in the new Apple TV, which is its ability to stream 1080p video. Setting it up is still as simple as always. You just plug it in, connect it to Wi-Fi or Ethernet, log in with your iTunes account, and you're done. And now you get access to iTunes Match, which gives you all your music, and iTunes in the Cloud, which gives you your movies and TV shows. And for the first time, you can actually see movies and TV shows that you've bought and actually stream them from the Apple TV. It's kind of odd that that wasn't there before, but it is there now. Apple's trying to make setup even simpler, and it now lets you sign up for Netflix just using your iTunes credentials. So it's just one tap to sign up for Netflix and start watching. Once you're logged in, you see the other big difference in the new Apple TV, which is the new interface. It's really icon-based and looks a lot like iOS. It's nicer to look at than the previously text-heavy version, but it's not necessarily easier to use or access. You see all the icons at once, whether you want to or not, and you'll find yourself scrolling through apps that you don't care about just to get to the ones that you do. Most of the apps, on the other hand, still look the same as they always did. They have the cover flow style icons on the left and text menus on the right. It's still super simple to navigate, but it's not quite as aesthetically pleasing as the new home screen. Most of the content that you can stream from iTunes and Netflix looks really great. The 1080p is really impressive and actually doesn't need to buffer that much. It's pretty fast and looks really fantastic. It's really sharp. It's not quite up to Blu-ray quality, mostly because of some compression artifacting that you get from iTunes servers, but it's really good and is definitely a noticeable improvement over the previous Apple TV. Unfortunately, Apple's content is still its biggest problem. The apps as channels idea is a smart one, but it's having trouble making deals with companies like HBO and CBS. And there are some apps that we've seen on other devices like the Roku that are still missing. There's no Hulu or HBO Go or Spotify, and all of those are available on other boxes. You can still play your own content using home sharing and AirPlay, both of which are pretty good but have their own limitations. AirPlay still has some issues with stuttering as you play games and lag as you switch songs, and home sharing is kind of kludgy to set up and requires you to be logged into a single account, and it's just not as intuitive as it could be. Other than the 1080p streaming, the new Apple TV is mostly an iterative improvement. Even the new interface is available as a software update on the last generation Apple TV. It's good, it's certainly the best Apple TV we've seen yet, but you're still choosing a superior user experience over the wider content offerings of a device like a Roku or a Boxee or a WD-TV device. At $99, it's not a bad price for something that does Netflix and iTunes so well, but if you want other content from Hulu and the like, you might be better off picking a different device.